Hello again, math students. We're going to have one more day of reviewing writing equations of lines with all the different options that we've looked at in this chapter so far for writing. So the first example that I have here, and it's not a great example because I think that it's going to be tricky for some people. I should be able to look at a graph and find the slope and the y-intercept and then be able to write the equation from that. The y-intercept is easy. It's right here, it's -2. The problem on this graph is that some people are going to think that right here, my line just isn't quite lined up, because sometimes we do some graphs and they just don't work out quite right. But that's not actually a spot where the line is hitting exactly on those grid marks. But right here, there is a spot. It happens to be covered up by the arrow. And the same thing happens down here. On a test kind of situation, I would make sure that I had those points on there to make sure that you could see where those points really are. Now, this is a positive slope, so I should be able to count my slope, which is going to go up 1, 2, 3, and sideways 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I should be able to do that again, up 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that means that my slope is 3/5. And I already knew that my y-intercept was -2, so my equation would be y equals 3/5 x plus a -2 or just -2. Whichever way you'd like to write it is fine. Notice when I wrote just my slope, the slope does not have an x with it. The x is part of the equation, but it's not part of the actual slope. If I just give you a slope and a y-intercept, you should be able to write this equation also. Again, the slope is the m, and the y-intercept is the b. So that means that this equation would just be y equals 7/2x plus 2. If I give you a point and a slope, we should start by graphing the point. So at 4, -5, that's right here, my slope is a -1/2, which would mean down 1 and right 2. So down 1, right 2, that's just fine, and I run out of space, but it's going away from the y-axis. So I have to work my way back to the y-axis, so I would have to go up and left. Up is positive, but left is negative. That's what gets me to this y-intercept right here at -3. As I said when we were doing these lessons, I really don't care if you graph a nice line for me. The graph is really kind of just what you're using to show your work to find that y-intercept. So I know my slope is a -1/2, and my y-intercept is -3. If I give you 2 points, we would obviously start by graphing those 2 points. So -4, 3, and -2, 4. This has a positive slope, right? We're going up 1 and over 2. So I would do that again, up 1 over 2, right here. So my slope we figured out by counting is up 1 over 2, and my y-intercept is 5. So the equation is going to be y equals 1/2 x plus 5. The tables, I feel like, are usually the place that people struggle the most to write these equations. Not that it's difficult, but it's just not as visual. You don't get the graph right there. And I don't want to take the time to actually graph these points to be able to find my equation. In this problem, when we've done slope in the past on these kind of tables, we've said you can use the slope formula if you want to. Or the slope formula is where you subtract the y's on the top, subtract the x's on the bottom, y sub 2 minus y sub 1 over x sub 2 minus x sub 1, or look at the patterns. These are written in patterns. So every time here, my y's are increasing by 2. So my slope, change in y is 2. My change in x, these are actually increasing by 4, which is going to be a 1/2. My y-intercept is where the x is 0. So the y-intercept is 4. That's not a very good star, I'm sorry. So my equation is just going to be y equals 1/2 x plus 4. And one more of the tables. This time the y's are decreasing. So this is decreasing by 2, -2, -2. So for my slope, the change in y is a -2. And the x's going in the same direction on my table are increasing by 3. So my slope is a -2/3. My y-intercept is when the x is 0. Well, better star that time. So the y-intercept, the b, is 8. And my equation is going to be y equals -2/3 x plus 8. Your worksheet today for practice problems is just covering those sections of writing equations from a graph, from a table, from a point and a slope, from 2 points, given a slope and a y-intercept. Any of those situations, you should be able to write the equation. So finish up the worksheet, check it with the answer key in Schoology that's always there, and then you're going to have to take the learning check. Because we need to be able to graph to do some of these, you're going to need some graph paper possibly for those learning checks. Feel free to just reuse one of the graphs if you don't have an empty one. Just look at one of your graphs that you have from your worksheet and use that to do your counting if you need to. If you have any questions, let me know.